Globalization and sovereignty. How has globalization and neoliberal politics turned Nigeria into a landfill with rampant inequality and environment issues? Globalization. Globalization, along with the concept of market liberalization, has threatened the autonomous powers, responsibilities, and obligations of nation states. This new global economy has seen the decline of powers of the nation state to govern over aspects such as land, labor, resources, politics, etc. This is evident especially in the case of less powerful developing post colonial nations. Neoliberal politics. Globalization has been accompanied by the spread of free market capitalism with the fast reduction of trade barriers, which has created the free movement of goods and services. Post World War II, international organizations such as the International Monetary Fund and World Bank started offering loans to poor post colonial countries only if they privatized their economies and allowed Western corporations access to their raw materials and markets. Case study. The negative effect of globalization on sovereignty can be seen in several post-colonial countries. In this presentation, I analyzed the case of the Nigerian Delta, a place rich in crude oil that has been exploited for decades by international oil corporations. Key concepts and GPC. Key concepts used in this presentation are globalization, inequality, and sustainability. The global politics challenge analyzed is health. Levels of analysis. The levels of analysis used are local, national, and international. History. British rule. The British left Nigeria in 1960 with a weak and dependent economy after exploiting its natural and human resources for decades. Thus, even after independence, Nigeria lacked the capacity for autonomous governing and production forces. Government policies. In 1985, President Babangida overthrew President Buhari, whose economic policy was majorly based on self-reliance. The regime of Buhari rejected IMF and World Bank offer of assistance because it did not want to compromise Nigeria's economic sovereignty. With the overthrow of Gen Buhari, President Babangida decided to embrace the Washington Consensus in pursuit of economic model fashioned on neoliberal ideology. Since the 1985, following the wholesome adoption of neoliberal politics to the Western metropolitan powers directed by the World Bank and IMF, Nigeria has become even more deeply enmeshed in misery and underdevelopment. The Nigerian Delta crisis. The Nigerian Delta is a petroleum-rich region of Nigeria, which has become a major zone of conflict. Conflict in the Nigerian Delta first arose in the 1990s between foreign oil corporations and the Delta's minority ethnic groups who felt that they were being exploited. Companies like Shell and Exxon have been extracting oil from the Delta and exporting it abroad. People of the Delta barely got a fraction of the profit, most of which went to corrupt government officials and the private corporations. The oil extraction operations further severely harm the environment and the health of the local people. Militant youth groups. Angered by this, many militant youth organizations were formed who felt that violence was the only way of making the government listen to their demands. They opted to attack targets like drill sites, pipelines, tankers, and facilities in order to stifle oil production and cripple the Nigerian government economically. They attacked working sites of foreign oil corporations as well. Illegal oil refining. Caught in the middle of this battle between the government, foreign oil companies, and militant groups, the local people of the Nigerian Delta had to resort to illegal oil refining as the only means of survival. These illegal oil refineries are one of the most dangerous workplaces in the world. Impact on health. Frequent oil spills in the Nigerian Delta because of pipeline and tanker accidents. Extraction has contaminated the air, land, and water, having devastating effects on the residents' health and livelihoods. Vast areas of the state's waterways and mangrove swamps, one of the most diverse ecosystems of Africa, have been destroyed or put at risk. Farmland has been coked in oil, contaminating crops and exposing people to high levels of heavy metals such as chromium, lead, and mercury. 3/4 of the population used to rely on fishing or farming. Agriculture and fishery as sources of livelihoods were also destroyed. Premature babies, new illnesses, cancer, cholera, diarrhea, child nutrition, and many other diseases that are not commonly found in young people were seen. Life expectancy of the place was cut to as short as 45 years. Life-changing health conditions due to the pollution were also seen. Counterclaim. Several lawsuits have been filed over the years against Shell for polluting the delta, demanding compensation fee and cleanup of the area. Shell denied all accusations and claimed that they worked safely without harming the people or the environment. Cases against Shell and other major oil companies have been fought for decades, which are still being fought to this day. Many have spoken in favor of Shell and other companies, stating that globalization and the entrance of big corporations to Nigeria will help in developing the region by creating jobs, improving health, education, and other human factors. Shell has also started some human development projects in the area. Schools of thoughts. Liberalist view. Liberalism sees the process of globalization as necessary to bring in global economic development. At an elementary level, it is the result of natural human desires for economic welfare and political liberty. Transplanetary connectivity is derived from human drives to maximize material well being to exercise basic freedoms. These forces eventually interlink humanity across the planet. Realist view. Realist view has questions of state power, the pursuit of national interest, and conflict between states. States are inherently acquisitive and self-serving and heading for inevitable competition of power. Some stand for a balance of power where any attempt by one state to achieve world dominance is conquered by collective resistance from the other states. Levels of analysis. Level. At the local level, the livelihoods and health of the people of the Delta have been disrupted. At the national level, there has been conflicts between militant groups of the Delta and the government. And at the international level, countries like USA have benefited from crude oil export from Nigeria. The policies imposed by IMF and World Bank were beneficial for rich developed countries but did not serve in the interests of the Nigerian people. Inclusion. Globalization has been a force challenging the sovereignty of nations. Even though nations are acknowledged as independent states with global community, African countries have not adequately established themselves as nations with national identities. Countries such as Nigeria lose their sovereign power to self-governance and are highly influenced by external powers. Globalization has also led to the exploitation of their people and resources. Possible solutions. Laws need to be set ensuring that international corporations are not able to exploit a country. International oil companies need to be held accountable for mismanagement on their behalf. Strict regulations need to be placed offering a fair wage, penalties for environmental pollution and labor exploitation. Oil companies must pay to clean the environment. Government should invest in healthcare and education. This will also help resolve the issues with young militant groups. That's it. Thank you.
It took you about 8 minutes.